Let's just start here with a basic question. The best team, and you've watched a lot of college hoops, the best team you've seen all year that's left in the Sweet 16.
Oh, I think it's Alabama. I think they're the best team that's left. I think, I think general conversation was throughout the course of the season towards the end that there was no team that's the best, and Alabama got the number one seed. And I think they are legitimately most talented, quickest, good defensively, the whole thing. The obvious part to all that, of course, is the off the court situation and the murder of a woman, which led to the dismissal of Darius Miles, and then what was revealed 5-6 weeks later about Brandon Miller and Jaden Bradley, and whether or not they were involved, but certainly where they were there. So I think it's hard to separate those two things because Alabama is already, because of football, a school that people don't want to root for, and then you get this into it with a tragedy. And it's the tournament, so you want to celebrate, but it's hard to know how to handle that. But by on the floor, I think Alabama is the best team.
Love the point you made that correlates to Alabama football and the tragedy surrounding the Alabama basketball program. I think it's a really good one. I want to go out to the West region, which is going to take place here in Las Vegas Thursday and Saturday at T-Mobile Arena. What a great group of 4 teams you've got here: Connecticut, Arkansas, UCLA, Gonzaga. Anyone you think that is really the favorite in your opinion to come out of here? Because I feel like you can make an argument potentially for all 4 teams.
So metrically, I think UConn is the best of that group. And they've played really well. When you go back to November and early mid-December, people thought UConn could win the national championship then, and then they kind of had their mid-season lull, and now they're back to playing like that again. Good guard play, great bigs. Excuse me, they got a lot of versatility with how they can play different lineups. So I really think UConn is a phenomenal basketball team. I would have answered that as UCLA. Had Jalen Clark not gotten hurt, you take away, A scorer, but B, the best defensive player of the year in the conference. So I would have said UCLA, but I don't know that they have enough without him. But I think, by far that is the most intriguing region where you say, I think any one of those 4 can make the Final Four. And I include Arkansas in that because of all the talent they have. There's a reason they were preseason top 15. So I throw all of that in there, and I don't know that anyone would be surprised if any of those 4 teams make the Final Four.
Jason Horowitz, CBS Sports, Westwood One, SiriusXM, the Raiders. He's all over. Let's go back to Alabama because they're going to be playing San Diego State. I'm sure with CBS you watched a lot of Mountain West basketball. It's a very good, Jason. This is a very good San Diego State team. They're going up against, as you mentioned, probably the best team left standing. It's a 7.5-point number favored for Alabama. But what is your take on San Diego State here?
So San Diego State's got experience. They got length. They got versatility. They've got bigs that can guard the perimeter, which when you face Alabama, that's important because Alabama wants to shoot a ton of threes. So you got a bunch of all that. They can slow it down. I still feel like it would be a big upset. But I know Brian Dutcher has downplayed this a little bit in that, hey, look, our past failures have nothing to do with this team. And he's right. We make stories all the time, and we make the narratives. And, a lot of the guys had nothing to do with any of the teams that had lost in tournaments before. So he's right about that. But in the case of this team, this school, these guys were part of last year's team. They were part of the 21 team. So I do think there's some of that buildup and the opportunity to play a spoiler. I don't know that they're good enough offensively. I think Matt Bradley, and maybe this has changed since the tournament started, but I think when the tournament started, Matt Bradley was their only guy who was averaging double figures per game. He might still be their only guy. So I just don't know that they have enough offense to score 70, right? If you can keep Alabama at like low 60s, go for it. Let's go. Toss it up. Who knows? I just don't know that keeping Alabama to 70 is a good number, and I don't know San Diego State can get up that high.
It's a great point. Sometimes this Aztecs offense does struggle a little bit there, and we'll see if they can be competitive in that one. I want to go to an intriguing region which could have potentially a tremendous showdown between Texas and Houston in the Midwest. But Miami, Jim Larrañaga's done a tremendous job. His team's playing very well. They're taking on the Cougars in the first game. They're catching 7.5 in this one. I think Miami actually matches up pretty well with Houston. Jason, how do you see this one against the Cougars?
Well, again, another team in Miami that, because of the transfers they had and Isaiah Wong coming back, people thought was a legitimate top 20 team, top 15 team coming into the year. And for a good portion early, underachieved. I think part of that is more because the ACC underachieved or wasn't as good as people hoped it would be. I think we forget that Miami's your regular season conference champ, which back in the day that you win the ACC, like that means a lot. That's a big deal, and it kind of swept under the radar this year because the ACC was, is Carolina going to make it? Oh my God, the preseason number one. They're not going to. We didn't really talk about the league being good, but Isaiah Wong had a phenomenal game against Indiana. Nigel Pack, there's a reason he got that massive NIL deal to come from Kansas State. They've got other guys too. I just don't think they're physically tough enough to handle all of what Houston brings. And so, no, I don't like Miami, but, again, they made the Elite Eight last year when nobody liked Miami. So we'll see.
We had Jason Horowitz. We had former Chattanooga and UMass head coach Matt McCall on last night, and he loves Florida Atlantic. So my question for you just mentioned toughness. They're going to have to be tough to take on this Tennessee team. Are they going to be tough enough?
Honestly, guys, I only watched FAU once this year before their opening game against Memphis, and that was in the Conference USA tournament because we had every game on in studio for Westwood One. I never caught any of their games, and before as the year went along, they're pretty impressive actually athletically, and I think as you expect anybody who goes 33-3, they're clearly tuned into what they need to do and what they want to do. What I find interesting about Tennessee, Rick Barnes historically, and I think the number is 19, but I'm not positive. Historically, Rick Barnes has more losses to lower-seeded teams or early exits than like anybody in the NCAA tournament history. I might be off on that by a couple, but something like that. And not to say that has anything to do with what's going to happen this weekend, but narratives get told over time, and sometimes they're true and sometimes they're not, and then sometimes we make them out to be something else. People talk about Matt Painter needs to go because they lost to FDU, and that's ridiculous. He's a great coach who's built a great thing and all that stuff. But in the case this weekend against Tennessee, it's not like Tennessee's great. Tennessee's not very great. In fact, offensively, they're rough. So the question is, will this be another one of those weekends where they are rough offensively? Because if they are rough offensively, then FAU is going to be in the game. And if you're in the game, who knows what happens in the last 4 minutes.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.